Now it's time for another Board Game Brawl preview with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com. Hey peeps, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called AVA Starship and is from AVA Games. Now if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page. There will be a link up in the top corner of your screen as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Those links will take you to the page. You can find out more information than I could possibly tell you here, and hopefully you'll consider backing the project. Now AVA Starship has an interesting theme in that it takes place in a sort of a fictitious ending to World War II, where all the different factions who were involved in that war come to the realization that, hey, we have nuclear weapons now and we're probably going to destroy the Earth. But what if we pool all of our resources together and create a starship so that we might be able to flee the planet if we have to, if we unknowingly obliterate it, and also, you know, in the spirit of cooperation, it'll be like this beacon of hope for the world. And so they do that, and all these different factions go onto this ship. But of course, if only it were that simple, on the ship, on this giant starship that they build, which is randomized in each game, the size and shape of it, the factions are sort of warring with each other and vying for control of the ship. And that is what the game essentially is. It's a competitive game where you, representing one of these different world powers like Great Britain or Russia, are trying to take control of the different compartments of the ship, like the engine room and the cargo hold and so on and so forth. And if you can do that in one of several different ways, either by dominating the ship, or just by having enough of your people out in all the compartments of the ship, or just having the most points at the end in gameplay terms, you're going to be the winner. So let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played with a prototype version of the game. So keep that in mind. What you see in this version of the game might be different in the final version, but this is just to give you a good indication of how the game will play. Then we're going to come back, we'll discuss it further. AVA Starship is a competitive game for 1 to 4 players. Your objective is to take control of the starship for your faction. There are several ways this might happen. You can dominate the ship by fully controlling all red or yellow areas. You can just have presence in all red and yellow areas. Or you can win via victory points when the ship departs without either of the other conditions happening. To start the game, you'll need to set up the ship. Randomly select one spaceship card that is applicable for the number of players and use it as a guide for laying out the compartment tiles. Compartments have 4 types: command, residential, storage, and engine. Each tile will tell you how many units you need to take control of it, how many units is the maximum for that compartment, how many shields it grants the defending player, and how many victory points it's worth at the end of the game. Also, the compartments that correspond to the red and yellow areas of the spaceship card are particularly important, as I mentioned before, for endgame conditions. Every player gets a bunch of stuff for their faction. A nation card, which starts off on the side that lets you play 3 cards per turn at the start of the game, but can be upgraded during the game to let you play 5. 2 hero figures, 22 unit tokens with a healthy and wounded side, and 7 control tokens. At the start of the game, each player places 1 healthy unit in every red and yellow area according to the card. Every player also starts with a hand of 4 starting action cards. 2 1-cost attacks, 1 1-cost defend, and 1 2-cost attack. The remaining cards are shuffled together into 3 separate decks by cost, either 1, 2, or 3. More powerful cards than your starters can be found here. But also, random event cards will be added to the cost 2 and 3 decks, and the cost 1 and 2 decks will be split in half into 4 piles, with the top card flipped up on each. Cost 3 cards are put to the side for now. Gameplay takes place in rounds, which consists of each player taking a turn, starting with the first player. Turns consist of taking actions, and you need to play cards to take actions, though you are limited by how many cards your nation can currently play, either 3 or 5. That means you can use multiple cards to take multiple actions, or use multiple cards all in the same action. Used cards go in the discard pile. If you have no cards left or simply no longer wish to take actions, you must pass until the round is over, which happens when all but one player has passed. One of the actions is to purchase cards. You use the dots at the bottom of the cards, representing value, to buy 1 or more cards from the top of the 1 and 2 cost decks. Discard cards with dots equal to the total cost, which counts towards your played card total. This is how you pay for the upgrade for your nation as well. Purchased cards go into your discard pile as well for next round's use. You can't buy cards from the cost 3 deck until either the 1 or 2 deck runs out, and if no one buys from either one of those decks in a round, you will still cycle 1 card from each down to the bottom of the 3 cost deck. If an event card is revealed after a purchase, resolve the effect and put it off to the side. This will indicate how much time is left in the game as well. Another action is boarding. Some cards have small astronaut symbols, and each card you play with that symbol lets you put a unit out on the board in a place where you already have units. You also have to make sure there's room in the compartment for your unit according to the compartment total itself. Or instead of that, you may spend 3 astronaut symbols to put out one of your heroes, following the same rules. The gun symbol on cards indicates the movement attack action. Each symbol you use a card for lets you activate 1 unit, and you either move that unit into an empty adjacent compartment or attack an adjacent compartment that has 1 or more players' units in it. You are considered the attacker, and all the other players band together as the defenders of the compartment. Each side of the conflict can play cards face down to support their endeavor, trying to use phasers for attack, shields for defense, or shattered shields to cancel opposing shields. When everyone is done playing cards face down, each player will flip them up and resolve them. Each side will take dice equal to the phaser symbols you played and the units actually in the compartment. Regular units get the inferior red dice, but heroes can roll the blue dice, which also have double hits, extra card plays, and rerolls. Heroes also are the last ones to get taken out and are immune to psychic attack cards. Hits will wound healthy units and kill wounded units, but shields can cancel them. After the battle, the attacker can move in units if there's room, but only those that participated in the attack. After battle, you can check for control. If you are the only one with units in a compartment, or you have at least the minimum number of units as indicated on the board, you can put a control token in the compartment. If someone else already has one there, you put yours on top of the stack. You also get a free card from the top of one of the purchasing stacks as well. In the future, if the compartment has shields pictured, you get to use those to protect your tile. Once every player has taken a turn, the round ends and you reset for the new round by taking all of your cards back. As soon as someone meets one of the win conditions, the game is over. This will happen either by one player having full control of either the red or the yellow areas, one player having at least 1 unit in every red and yellow area, or having the most points at the end, which occurs when enough event cards are revealed and resolved. Every compartment you have a control token on will grant you the points indicated in the corner. Whoever has the most is the winner. Well, AVA Starship has a lot of interesting things going for it, because of course I talked in the intro about the theme of the game, which is, there's a lot of games that are World War II, there's a lot of games that are spaceships, but there's this one has a retro feel to it, and also the fact that you have these different retro factions from World War II, but going over a starship and trying to play out the whole war, domination war, on a starship instead is a very interesting way to go about things. And how it plays out in gameplay terms is also interesting because you have the different victory conditions, which you really have to take into account right from the get-go. Like, what am I going to try to do, and what am I going to be working towards? The layout of the board is different each time, and depending on your playstyle and depending on how your board position ends up being when your turn comes around, that's going to change your strategy. Do you try to go for a total domination? It also depends on what cards you can get. If you just try to just slam your opponents and wipe them out and take over the compartments, that's one thing, but that might be very difficult. It might be a bit easier to spread out and have a presence victory by being in all the different compartments, but that takes time, and someone else might jump ahead of you and just dominate compartments ahead of time. Departments and compartments. So you really have to be very wary of that and be constantly paying attention to what your opponents are doing. Also, how the little nuts and bolts of the game work is also interesting. Like, essentially, there's a bit of deck building in the game. It's not the most pronounced feature of the game, but you have to buy new cards and hopefully better cards and put them into your deck. Or again, if your strategy is just attack, 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 you might buy the weaker attack cards from the one stack just to have more of them. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. But you have a limited number of turns. The game is going to end eventually when all the event cards have come out, and that's another thing you have to plan for and worry about ahead of time. But knowing that you have this built-in time limit on the game means that you also have to prepare for the eventuality of a victory point win, which in that case means you don't go for the most important compartments, the red and yellow compartments. You might have to spread out and get other ones as well. And just how you, the thing with the heroes being better, and how you use some of the special abilities on your cards as well, which I'm sorry I didn't even cover very well in the overview, but that's another thing you have to keep in mind too. So lots of different things in the game, but it's not overwhelming. It's a very simple game and straightforward game to learn and to teach and to get running. But then you find that there are a lot of decisions to be made within the game as well, which is the sign of an interesting game. So if you like what you see in that preview copy of the game, if any of that sounds interesting to you, if you like the theme, if you like the area control, if you like the deck building aspects, and just all of the interesting cogs and bolts and things, then definitely go to the Kickstarter product page. You don't have to take my word for it. There will be a link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Go there, find out more information, and hopefully consider backing the project. That is AVA Starship from AVA Games. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting our sponsors. Take care. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.